Today's the day. Oh. My internet's been spotty all morning, so we'll see how it works for me. Oh shit. I don't know what chapter we're reading until today. I think we're reading until 61. Damn. I think we're reading until 61. Squinting my eyes so that's a lot of pages. Well, it is going to be a long live today. So, I hope y'all have something to eat. I hope y'all are sitting somewhere very comfy because it's going to be a long one today. I'm just going to go ahead and start. Well, Sarah's not here yet. I was waiting for Sarah, but she's not here yet. Well. Okay. Chapter 57. We'll just go ahead and start because it's a long one and I'm scared. Okay, let's go. An hour before dawn, the keep and two armies beyond it were stirring. Rowan had barely slept and instead lain awake beside Aelin, listening to her breathing. That the rest of them slumbered soundly was testament to their exhaustion, though Lorcan had not found them again. Rowan was willing to bet it was by choice. It was not fear or anticipation of battle that had kept Rowan up. No, he'd slept well enough during other wars, but rather the fact that his mind would not stop looping him from thought to thought to thought. He'd seen the numbers camped outside. Valg, human men loyal to Erwin, some fell beasts, yet nothing like the Ilkin or the Wordhounds, or even the witches. Aelin could wipe them away before the sun had fully risen. A few blasts of her power and that army would be gone. Yet she had not presented it as an option in their planning last night. He'd seen the hope shining in the eyes of the people in the keep. The awe of the children as she passed. The Firebringer, they'd whispered. Aelin of the wildfire. How soon would that awe and hope crumble today when not a spark of that fire was unleashed? How soon would the men's fear turn rank when the Queen of Terrasen did not wipe away Morath's legions? He hadn't been able to ask her. Had told himself to. Had roared at himself to ask these past few weeks. When even their training hadn't summoned an ember. But he couldn't bring himself to demand why she wouldn't or couldn't use her power. Why they had seen or felt nothing of it after those initial few days of freedom. Couldn't ask what Maeve and Corrine had done to possibly make her fear or hate her magic enough that she didn't touch it. Worry and dread gnawing at him, Rowan slipped from the room, the din of preparations greeting him the moment he entered the hall. A heartbeat later, the door opened behind him, and steps fell into sync with his own along with the familiar, wicked scent. They burned her. Rowan glanced sidelong at Fenris. What? But Fenris nodded to a passing healer. Corrine and Maeve. Through her orders. Why are you telling me this? Fenris, blood oath or no, what he'd done for Aelin or no, was not privy to these matters. No, it was between him and his mate and no one else. Fucking shit, got a hair in my eye. Fenris threw him a grin that didn't meet his eyes. You were staring at her half the night. I could see it on your face. You're all thinking it. Why doesn't she just burn the enemy to hell? Rowan aimed for the washing station down the hall. A few soldiers and healers stood along the metal scrubbing their faces to shake the sleep or nerves. Fenris said. He put her in those metal gauntlets, and one time he heated them over an open brazier. There. He stumbled for words, and Rowan could barely breathe. It took the healers 2 weeks to fix what he did to her hands and wrists. And when she woke up, there was nothing but healed skin. She couldn't tell what had been done and what was a nightmare. Rowan reached for one of the ewers that some of the children refilled every few moments and dumped it over his head. Icy water bit into his skin, drowning out the roaring in his ears. Corrine did many things like that. Fenris took up a ewer himself and splashed some into his hands before rubbing them over his face. Rowan's hand shook as he watched the water funnel toward the basin set beneath the trowel. Sorry. Your claiming marks, though. Fenris wiped his face again. No matter what they did to her, they remained. Longer than any other scar, they'd stayed. Yet her neck had been smooth when he'd found her. Reading that thought, Fenris said, the last time they healed her, right before she escaped, that's when they vanished. When Maeve told her that you'd gone to Terrason. The words hit like a blow. When she had lost hope that he was coming for her, even the greatest healers in the world hadn't been able to take that from her until then. Rowan wiped his face on the arm of his jacket. Why are you telling me this? He repeated. Fenris rose from the trowel? Whatever, drying his face with the same lack of ceremony. So you can stop wondering what happened. Focus on something else today. The warrior kept pace beside him as they headed for where they'd been told a meager breakfast would be laid out, and let her come to you when she's ready. She's my mate, Rowan growled. You think I don't know that? Fenris could shove his snout into someone else's business. Fenris held up his hands. You can be brutal when you want something. I'd never force her to tell me anything she wasn't ready to say. It had been their bargain from the start, part of why he'd fallen in love with her. He should have known then, during those days in Mistward, when he found himself sharing parts of himself, his history. Trough. Sorry, my dad called me. He should have known then, during those days in Mistward, when he found himself sharing parts of himself, his history that he'd never told anyone, when he found himself needing to tell her, in fragments and pieces, yes, but he'd wanted her to know, and Aelin had wanted to hear it, all of it. They discovered Aelin and Elide already at the buffet table, grim-faced as they plucked up pieces of bread and cheese and dried fruit. No sign of Gavriel or Lorcan. Rowan came up behind his mate and pressed a kiss to her neck, right to where his new claiming marks lay. She hummed and offered him a bite of the bread she'd already dug into while gathering the rest of her food. He obliged, the bread thick and hearty, then said, You were asleep when I left a few minutes ago, yet you somehow beat me to the breakfast table. Another kiss to her neck. Why am I not surprised? Elide laughed beside Aelin, piling food onto her own plate. Aelin only elbowed him as he fell into line beside her. The four of them ate quickly, refilled their water skins at the fountain in an interior courtyard, and set about finding armor. There was little on the upper levels that was fit for wearing, so they descended into the keep, deeper and deeper, until they came across a locked room. Should we? Or is it rude? Aelin mused, peering at the wooden door. Rowan sent a spear of his wind, aiming for the lock, and splintered it apart. Looks like it was already open when we got here, he said mildly. Aelin gave him a wicked smile. And Fenris pulled a torch off its bracket in the narrow stone hallway to illuminate the room beyond. Well, now we know why the rest of the keep is a piece of shit, Aelin said, surveying the trove. He's kept all the gold and fun things down here. Indeed, his mate's idea of fun things was the same as Rowan's: armor and swords, spears, and ancient maces. He couldn't have distributed this? Elide frowned at the racks of swords and daggers. It's all heirlooms, said Fenris, approaching one such rack and studying the hilt of a sword. Ancient, but still good. Really good, he added, pulling a blade from its sheath. He glanced at Rowan. This was forged by This was forged by an Asterian blacksmith. From a different age, Rowan mused, marveling at the flawless blade, its impeccable condition. When Fae were not so feared. Are we just going to take it? Without even Kale's permission? Elide chewed on her lip. Aelin snickered. Let's consider ourselves swords for hire, and as such, we have fees that need to be paid. She hefted a round, golden shield, its edges beautifully engraved with a motif of waves, also Asterian made, judging by the craftsmanship. Likely for the Lord of Anielle, the Lord of the Silver Lake. So we'll take what we're owed for today's battle and spare his lordship the task of having to come down here himself. Gods, he loved her. Fenris winked at Elide. I won't tell if you don't, lady. Elide blushed and waved them onward. Collect your earnings, then. Rowan did. He and Fenris found armor that could fit them. In certain areas, they had to forego the entire suit, but took pieces to enforce their shoulders, forearms, and shins. Rowan had just finished strapping greaves on his legs when Fenris said, "We should bring some of this up for Lorcan and Gavriel." Indeed, they should. Rowan eyed other pieces and began collecting extra daggers and blades, then sections from another suit that might fit Lorcan, Fenris doing the same for Gavriel. "You must charge a great deal for your services," Alid muttered, even while the Lady of Parenth tied a few daggers to her own belt. "I need some way to pay for my expensive tastes, don't I?" Aelin drawled, weighing a dagger in her hands. But she hadn't donned any armor yet, and when Rowan gave her an inquiring glance, Aelin jerked her chin toward him. "Head upstairs, track down Lorcan and Gavriel. I'll find you soon." Her face was unreadable for once. Perhaps she wanted a moment alone before battle, and when Rowan tried to find any words in her eyes, Aelin turned toward the shield she'd claimed, as if contemplating it. So Rowan and Fenris headed upstairs, Alid helping to haul their stolen gear. No one stopped them, not with the sky turning to gray and soldiers rushing to their positions on the battlements. Rowan and Fenris didn't have far to go. They'd be stationed by the gates at the lower level, where the battering rams might come flying through if Morath got desperate enough. On the level above them, KoA sat astride his magnificent black horse, the mare's breath curling from her nostrils. Rowan lifted a hand in greeting, and KoA saluted back before gazing toward the enemy army. The Khaganate would make the first maneuver, the initial push to get Morath moving. "I always forgot how much I hate this part," Fenris muttered. "The waiting before it begins." Rowan grunted his agreement. Gavriel prowled up to them, Lorcan a dark storm behind him. Rowan wordlessly handed the armor he'd gathered. "Courtesy of the Lord of Anielle." Lorcan gave him a look that said he knew Rowan was full of shit, but began efficiently donning the armor. Gavriel doing the same. Whether the soldiers around them marked that armor, whether KoA recognized it, no one said a word. Far out, the gray sky lightening further, Morath stirred to discover the Khaganate's golden army already in place. That word always trips me up. And as a lone ruck screeching its challenge, the Khaganate advanced. Foot soldiers in perfect lines marched, spears out, shields locked rim to rim. The Dargan cavalry flanked either side, a force of nature ready to herd Morath to where they wanted them. And above, flapping into the skies, the Ruckin readied their bows and marked their targets. "Ready now," KoA called out to the men of his keep. Armor clanked as men shifted, their fear stuffing itself up Rowan's nose. This would be it. Today, whether that hope remained or fractured. Already, the awakening sky revealed 2 siege towers being hauled toward them, right to the wall. Far closer than Rowan had last noted when flying overhead last night. Morath, it seemed, had not been sleeping either. The Rucks would remain back with their own army, driving Morath to the keep, to be picked off here, one by one. "We have minutes until that first tower makes contact with the wall," Gavriel observed. "Oh, fuck, I'm getting scared. I feel like I'm gonna throw up." A scan of the battlements, the soldiers atop them, revealed no sign of Aelin. Lorcan indeed muttered, "Someone better tell her to stop primping and get here." Rowan snarled in warning. The clash of armored feet and shields was as familiar as any song. Morath's foot soldiers aimed for the keep walls, spears at the ready. At the other end of the host, soldiers faced away, spears and pikes angled to intercept the Khaganate's army. That sounds... Khaganate? Whatever. A horn blasted from deep in the Khaganate ranks and arrows flew. The massive Morath soldiers didn't so much as flinch or look behind to see what became of their rear lines. "Ladders," Fenris murmured, pointing with his chin toward the ripple through the lines. Massive siege ladders of iron parted the crowd. "They're making this their all-out assault then," Lorcan said with equal quiet. "All of them careful not to let the nearby men hear. They'll try to break into the keep before the Khaganate can break them." "Archers!" KoA's bellow rang out. Behind them, down the battlements, bows groaned. Fenris unslung the bow across his back and knocked an arrow into place. "I'm scared." Rowan kept his own bow strapped across his back, the quiver untouched, Gavriel and Lorcan doing the same. No need to waste them on a few soldiers when their aim might be needed for far worse targets later in the day. But one of them had to be noted felling soldiers. for whatever it would do to rally their spirits. And Fenris, as fine an archer as Rowan, he'd admit, would do just fine. Rowan followed the line of Fenris's arrowhead to where he'd marked one of the bearers of a siege ladder. "Make it impressive," he muttered. "Mind your own business," Fenris muttered back, tracking his target with the tip of his arrow as he awaited KoA's order. If Aelin didn't arrive within another moment, he'd have to leave the battlements to find her. What in the hell had held her up? What is she doing? What is she doing? Lorcan drew his ancient blade, which Rowan had witnessed felling soldiers in kingdoms far from here, in wars far longer than this one. "They'll head for the gates when that siege tower docks," Lorcan said, glancing from the battlements to the gate a level below, the small bastion of men, of men in front of it. Trees had been felled to prop up the metal doors, but should a solid enough group of enemy soldiers swarm it, they might get those supports and the heavy locks down within minutes, and open the gates to the hordes beyond. "We don't let them get that far," Rowan said, eyeing up the massive tower lumbering closer. Soldiers teamed behind it, waiting to scale its interior. KoA brought the tower down the other day without our help. It can happen again. Volley, KoA's roar echoed off the stones, and arrows sang. I'm fucking scared. Like a swarm of locusts, they swept up upon the soldiers marching below. Fenris's arrow found its mark with lethal precision. Within a heartbeat, another was on its tail. A second soldier at the siege ladder fell. Where the hell was Aelin? Morath didn't halt, marched right over the soldiers who fell on their front lines. Sorry, I have a hair in my eye. The pulse of human fear down the battlements rippled against his skin. The Gadre would have to strike fast, and strike well, to shake it away. The siege tower lumbered closer. One glance from Rowan had him and his friends moving toward the spot it would now undeniably strike upon the battlements, close enough to the stairs down to the gate. Morath had chosen the location well. Some of the soldiers they passed were praying, a shuddering push of words into the frigid morning air. Lorcan said to one of them, "Save your breath for the battle, not the gods." Rowan shot him a look, but the man gaping at Lauren quieted. KoA ordered another volley, and arrows flew, Fenris firing as he walked, as if he were barely bothered. Still, the whispered prayers continued down the line, swords shaking along with them. Up by KoA, the soldiers held firm, faces solid. But here, on this level of the battlements, those faces were pale, wide-eyed. "Someone better say something inspiring," Fenris said through his gritted teeth, firing another arrow, "or these men are going to piss themselves in a minute." For a minute was all they had left. As the first siege tower inched closer, "You've got the pretty face," Lorcan retorted. "You do a better job of it." "It's too late for speeches," Rowan cut in before Fenris could reply. "Better to show them what we can do." They positioned themselves on the wall, right in the path of the bridge that would snap down over the battlement. He drew his sword, then thumbed free the hatchet at his side. Gabriel unsheathed twin blades from across his back, falling into flanking position at Rowan's right. Lorcan planted himself on his left. Fenris took the rear to catch any who got through their net. I'm fucking scared. The mortal men clustered behind them. The gate shuddered under the impact of Morath at last. Rowan steadied his breathing, readying his magic to rip through Val's lungs. He'd fell a few with his blades first, to show how easily it could be done, that Morath was desperate and victory would be near. The magic would come later. The siege tower groaned as it slowed to a stop, just as the wall under them shuddered at its impact. Fenris whispered, "Holy gods," not at the bridge that snapped down, soldiers teeming in the dark depths inside, but at who emerged from the keep archway behind them. What emerged? Is it Aelin? Is it Aelin? Is it Aelin? Is it Aelin? Rowan didn't know where to look. At the soldiers pouring out of the siege tower, leaping onto the battlements. Or at Aelin. At the Queen of Terrasen. She'd found armor below the keep. Beautiful, pale gold armor that... Beautiful, pale gold armor that gleamed like a summer dawn. Holding back her braided hair, a diadem lay flush against her head. Not a diadem, but a piece of armor, part of some ancient set for a lady long since buried. A crown for war, a crown to wear into battle, a crown to lead armies. There was no fear on her face, no doubt, as Aelin hefted her shield, flipping Goldrin in her hand once before the first of Morath's soldiers was upon her. A swift, upward strike cleaved the Morath grunt from navel to chin. His black blood sprayed, but she was already moving, flowing like a stream around a rock. Rowan launched into movement, his blades finding their marks, but still he watched her. Aelin slammed her shield against an oncoming warrior, Goldrin slicing through, another before she plunged the blade into the soldier she'd deflected. She did it again, and again, all while heading toward that siege tower, unhindered, unleashed. A call went down the line. The queen has come. Soldiers waiting their turn whirled toward them. Aelin took on 3 Valk soldiers and left them dying on the stones. She planted her line before the gaping maw of that siege tower, right in the path of those teeming hordes. Every moment of the training she'd done on the ship here, on the road, every new blister and callus, all to rebuild herself for this. The queen has come. Goldrin unfaltering, her shield an extension of her arm, Aelin glowed like the sun that now broke over the Kagan's army as she engaged each soldier that hurtled her way. 5, 10, she moved and moved and moved, ducking and swiping, shoving and flipping, black blood spraying, her face the portrait of grim, unbreaking will. The queen, the men shouted. To the queen. And as Rowan fought his way closer, as that cry went down the battlements and anielle men ran to aid her, he realized that Aelin did not need an ounce of flame to inspire men to follow, that she had been waiting, yanking at the bit to show them what she, without magic, without any godly power, might do. He'd never seen such a glorious sight. In every land, every battle, he had never seen anything as glorious as Aelin before the throat of the siege tower, holding the line. Dawn breaking around them, Rowan loosed a battle cry and tore into Morath. Aww. I love her. Okay, that's it, right? That's what y'all wanted my reaction to? Nothing else happens? Like, they sweep them. They sweep them, right? Nobody dies. Nobody gets hurt. This first battle would set the tone. It would set the tone and send a message, not to Morath. Impress us, Hussar had said. So she would. So she picked the golden armor and her battle crown and waited until dawn, until that siege tower slammed into the battlements before unleashing herself. To keep the men here from breaking, to wipe away the fear festering in their eyes, to convince the Khaganate royals of what she might do, what she could do, not a threat but a reminder. She was no helpless princess. She had never been. Goldrin sang with each swipe, her mind as cool and sharp as the blade while she assessed each enemy soldier, their weapons, and took them down accordingly. She dimly knew that Rowan fought at her side, Gavriel and Fenris battling near her left flank. But she was keenly aware of the mortal men who leaped into the fray with cries of defiance. They'd made it this far. They would survive today. They would survive today too, and the Khaganate royals would know it. Galloping hooves drowned out the battle, and then KoA was there, sword flashing, driving into the unending tide that rushed from the tower's entrance. To Lord KoA, to the Queen. How far they both were from Rifthold, from the assassin and the captain. Arrows rose from the army beyond the wall, but a wave of icy wind snapped them into splinters before they could find any marks. A dark blur plunged past, and then Lorcan was at the siege's tower's mouth, his sword swinging so fast Aelin could barely follow it. He battled his way across the metal bridge of the tower, into the stairwell beyond, like he'd fight his way down the ramps and onto the battlefield itself. Below, a boom began. Morath had brought in their battering ram. Aelin smiled grimly. She'd bring them all down. Then Erwin, and then she'd unleash herself upon Maeve. At the opposite end of the field, the Kagan's army pushed, gaining the field step by step. Not helpless, not contained. Never again. Death became a melody in her blood, every movement a dance as the tide of soldiers pouring from the tower slowed, as if Lorcan was indeed forcing his way down the interior. Those who got past him met her blade, or Rowan's, a flash of gold, and Gavriel had slaughtered his way into the siege tower as well, twin blades a whirlwind. What Lorcan and the lion would do upon reaching the bottom, how they dislodged the tower, she didn't know, didn't think about it, not from this place of killing and movement, of breath and blood, of freedom. Death had been her curse and her gift and her friend for these long, long years. She was happy to greet it again under the golden morning sun. Anna! Anna, you're here! get in trouble with work for this. Thank you for being here. I missed you. Chapter 58. Scared. A lead wasn't... Why are we on a lead? Why are we with a lead right now? The only reason we're with a lead is if something bad happens. I don't want to be with her right now. A lead wasn't even on the battlements, and she already wished to never endure another war again. The soldiers who were hauled in, their injuries, she didn't know how the healers were so calm, how Irene Westfall worked so steadily while a man was screaming at his internal organs, as his internal organs poked through the gash of his belly. The keep shook every now and then, and Lead hated herself for being glad she didn't know what it meant, even as it ate away at her, not knowing how her companions fared, if the Kagan's army was close enough so that this nightmare could end soon. It would be hours yet, the dark-skinned, sharp-eyed healer named Heredia had claimed when a lead had vomited... Damn, she's suffering. Had vomited upon seeing a man whose shin bone stuck clean through his leg. Hours yet until it was over. The terse healer had chided, so she'd better finish heaving and get back to work. Not that there was much a lead could do. Despite the generous gift of power that ran through the Lockin bloodline, she possessed no magic, no gifts beyond reading people and lying. But she helped the healers pin down thrashing men, rushed to get bandages, hot water, and whatever salves or herbs the healers calmly requested. None of them shouted. They only raised their voices, magic glowing bright around them, if a soldier was shrieking too loudly for their words to be heard. The sun was barely over the horizon, judging by the light at the windows set high in the great hall, and so many already lay injured. So many. Still they kept coming, and a lead kept moving, her limp becoming a dull, then a sharp ache, a minor pain compared to what the soldiers endured, compared to what they faced on the battlements. She didn't let herself think of her friends, didn't let herself think of Lorcan, who had not come to the chamber last night and had not sought them out this morning, as if he didn't want to be near her, as if he'd taken every hateful word she'd spoken to heart. So a lead aided the clear-eyed healers, held down screaming, pleading men, and did not stop. Horatia did not balk from the Morath soldiers, who made it onto the battlements, from the ones who emerged from the second siege tower that docked down the wall, or those who made it up the ladders. No, that magnificent horse trampled them, fearless and wicked, just as Kale had predicted, a horse whose name meant butterfly, stomping all over Valgfoot soldiers. Had his breath not been a rasp in his chest, Kale might have smiled. Had men not been cut down around him, he might have laughed a bit too. But Morath was launching itself at the walls and gates with a furor they had not yet witnessed. I've literally never seen that word in my entire life. What the fuck? It threw me off, sorry. Perhaps they knew who had come to Anielle and now hewed them down. Aelin and Rowan fought back to back, and Fenris had plowed his way down the battlements to join Kale by the second siege tower. Kale's sword arm didn't falter, despite the exhaustion that began to creep up as an hour, then two passed. Far across the sea of enemy soldiers, the Ruckin and Dargan armies herded and smashed Morath between their forces, driving them toward the keep walls. Morath, it seemed, did not think to surrender, only to inflict destruction, to break into the keep and slaughter as many as they could before meeting their end. His shield bloodied and dented, his horse a raging demon herself beneath him. Kale kept swinging his sword. His wife lay within the keep behind him. He would not fail her. Wrong water bottle. Ugh. Nesrin ran out of arrows too soon. Morath did not flee, even with the might of the Dargan riders and the foot soldiers upon them, so they slowly advanced, leaving bodies clad in black as well as gold armor in their wake. More Morath soldiers than their own, but it was hard, near unbearable, to see so many go down, to see the beautiful horses of the Dargan riderless, or felled themselves. The Ruckin took losses, but not as many, now that an army fought beneath them. Sartak led the center, and from where Nesrin commanded the left flank, she kept an eye on him and Kadara. An eye on Bort and Yedin, leading... Oh, nothing better happened to them. I swear to God! Leading the right flank to the far western side of the battle, Falcon and Nar in ruck form with them. Perhaps she imagined it, but Nesrin could have sworn the shifter fought with renewed vigor, as if the years returned to him aided his strength. Nesrin nudged Salki, and they dove again, the riders behind her following suit. Arrows and spears rose to meet them, some Morath soldiers fleeing. Nesrin and Salki rose back into the air, coated in more black blood. High overhead, twin Ruckin scout patrols monitored the battle. As Nesrin wiped the black blood from her face, one rider dove, right for Sartak. Sartak was soaring away a heartbeat later. Nesrin knew he'd kick her ass for it, but she shouted to the Ruckin captain behind her to hold formation and steered Salki after the prince. "Get back in line," Sartak ordered over the wind, his skin unusually ashen. "What's wrong?" she called. Salki flapped harder, falling into line with the prince's ruck. Sartak pointed ahead, to the wall of mountains just beyond the lake and city, to the dam he'd so casually mentioned breaking to wipe away Morath's army. With each flap of Salki's wings it became clearer what had sent him into a mad dash. A group of Morath soldiers had taken the night not to rest, but to sneak through the abandoned city, to scale the foothills, then the mountain wall, to the dam itself, where they now, with battering rams and wicked cunning, sought to unleash it. Salki swept closer. Nesrin reached for an arrow, her fingers curled around air. Damn. Sartak, however, had 2 arrows left and fired both upon the 30 or so Morath soldiers heaving a mammoth battering ram into the center of the dam. Damn. Wood and stone and iron, ancient and foreboding. A few cracks and it would come down, and then the upper lake and river penned up behind it would rage across the plain. Morath did not care if its own forces were washed away. They would lose today anyway. They would not allow the Kagan's army to walk off the plain either. Both of Sartak's arrows found their marks, but the 2 soldiers who went down did not cause the others to drop the battering ram. Again, they heaved the ram back and swung it forward. I'm starting to burp. That's how you know I'm nervous. Oh, God. There's a hair in my eye. Sorry. I'm stalling, but there's also a hair in my eye, so... The boom of wood on wood echoed up to them. They soared near enough that the iron enforcements at the tip of the battering ram became clear. Thick iron casing capped with spikes meant to shred and pierce. If Salki and Kadara could reach it, they could rip the ram from their hands. Metal groaned and cranked, and Sartak's warning cry shattered across the air. Salki banked on instinct, spying the massive iron bolt before Nesrin did. A bolt fired from a... Y'all. Hold on. Y'all. Hold on. Did y'all know that I have literal PTSD from Game of Thrones involving, what do they call him? A bolt, involving bolts and shooting things out of the air with said bolts. Please don't do this to me right now. A bolt fired from a heavy-looking device. They must have rolled up here to keep Rux away. Okay. Not the scorpions coming back to fucking haunt me. Not the scorpions. Oh my God. Stop. It's fine. It'll be fine. The bolt went wide, slamming through the mountain rock. It would have pierced Salki's chest, straight into his heart. Stomach churning, Nesrin soared up again, assessing the soldiers below. Sartak signaled from nearby. Weave in through 2 different directions, meet in the center. The wind screamed in her ears, but Nesrin tugged on the reins and Salki banked in a wide arc. Sartak turned Kadara, the mirror image to Nesrin's maneuver. Fast as you can, Salki, Nesrin shouted to her ruck. Gaining on the dam, on the soldiers, Salki and Kadara soared toward each other, crossed paths, and arced outward again. Why can't they go get reinforcements? Why can't they go get more people? They just started hitting the dam. I feel like we have time to get reinforcements and also warn other... Okay, because listen to me. Listen. they're the only two people that know what's going on right now, right? They're the only two people that know that they're trying to bring the dam down. So if we could just take a second to think and go back and warn everyone else, then like more people would know and they could come help. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I feel like this is a little too risky. And yeah, it's not looking too good, y'all. This fucking hair in my eye, the stress, the wind. Sorry, I was stalling. I'm sorry. The wind screamed in her. Oh, no. Gaining on the dam, on the soldiers, Salki and Kadara soared toward each other, crossed paths, and arced outward again, weaving fast as the wind itself, denying the archers an easy target. An iron bolt fired for Sartak and ripped through... Oof, that scared me. My heart dropped. Ripped through air above him, nearly grazing his head. The battering ram slammed into the wood again. I'm gonna throw up. This is the part of the book that I did not want to get into. This is the part of the book that I did not want to get to. The stressful parts. A splintering crack sounded this time, a deep groan, like some terrible beast awakening from a long slumber. Another iron bolt shot for them and missed. Nesrin and Sartak wove past each other, flying so fast her eyes streamed. I'm making myself sick, I'm sorry. The wind sang, full of the voices of the dying and injured. And then they were there. Salki's talons outstretched as he slammed into the iron machine that had launched those bolts, ripping it apart. Soldiers screamed as the ruck fell upon them too. Those at the battering ram got in another thundering boom against the dam before Sartak and Kadara slashed into them. Men went flying, some hitting the dam, some landing in pieces. Kadara hurled the battering ram onto the nearby mountain face, wood splintering with the impact. It rolled away into the rocks and vanished. Heart thundering, the battle, that's too easy. The battle on the plain below still raging. Nesrin wheeled Salki around and took stock of the dam wall, Sartak doing the same beside her. What they saw made them soar back to the keep as swiftly as the winds could carry them. Okay. But they're not dead. The stress verbs. I'm about to throw up. I'm literally gonna throw up. This water is not enough. I need something with flavor. Oh God, I need like carbonation. Lorcan had battled his way down the first siege tower's dim, cramped interior, slaughtering the soldiers in his path. Gavriel followed behind him, soon catching up as Lorcan found himself holding the entrance to the tower against the countless soldiers trying to get in. The two of them stemmed the tide, even as a few of the Morath grunts got past their swords. Whitethorn and the Queen would be waiting to pick them off. Lorcan lost track of how long he and Gavriel held the entrance to the siege tower, how long it took until their forces were able to dislodge it. Their magic would be useless. The entire damn thing was built of iron. The ladders too. Oh God. Sorry. As if Morath had anticipated their presence. Only the groaning of collapsing metal warned them that the tower was coming down and sent them racing onto the battlefield. Where they'd found themselves outside the gates, Fenris and Lord Kael had appeared at the battlement walls with archers and fired at the soldiers who'd rushed for Lorcan and Gavriel. But he and the lion had already marked their next target, the battering ram still slamming into those ever-weakening gates, and with the archers covering from above, they'd begun slaughtering their way to it. And then, oh God, sorry, slaughtering their way along the ram itself until it thudded to the ground, then was forgotten in the wave of Morath soldiers who came for them. Lorcan's breath had been a steady beat, a grounding force as the bodies piled around them. Then they need only hold the gate long enough for the Kagan's army to overrun the Morath host. From above, a swift, brutal wind added to the dance of death, ripping the air from the lungs of soldiers charging at them, even as he knew Whitethorn kept fighting on the battlements. Lorcan again lost track of time, only vaguely knew the sun was arcing across the sky. But the Kagan's army was gaining the field. Inch by inch. Sorry. I'm stressing myself out, y'all. Enough so that the rucks wrenched the siege ladders from the keep walls enough so that Lord KoA shouted down to him and Gavriel to scale the siege ladder and get the hell back up here. Gavriel obeyed, spotting the iron ladder cleared of Morath's soldiers being held in place only long enough for them to climb back up to the battlements. But the Kagan's forces were near, and a nudge of Lorcan's shoulder told him not to run, but to fight. So Lorcan listened. He didn't bother to shout to Gavriel, now half up the ladder, before he plunged into the fray. He'd been bred for battle. Regardless of what queen he served, whether he was Fae or Valg or human, this was what he had been trained to do, what some part of him sang to do, Lorcan plowed his own path toward the advancing Kagan lines, some Morath soldiers fleeing in his wake, some falling before he reached them, his magic snapping their lives away. Soon now. They'd win the field soon, and the song in his blood would quiet. Part of him didn't want it to end, even as his body began to scream to rest. Yet when the battle was done, what would remain? Nothing. Elide had made that clear enough. She loved him, but she hated herself for it. He hadn't deserved her anyway. Oh, please don't do this to me right now. I'm already emotional as is. Please don't do this to me right now. She deserved a life of peace, of happiness. He didn't know such things. I thought he'd glimpsed them during the months they'd tried. Shut up! Why would you say this to me right now? Why would you do this to me? Why would you say this to me right now? God damn it. I thought he'd glimpsed them during the months they'd traveled together before everything went to hell. But now he knew he was not meant for anything like it. But this battlefield, this death song around him, this he could do. This he could savor. The golden helmets of the Kagan's army became clear, their fiery horses unfaltering, finer than any host he'd fought beside an immortal kingdom, and any immortal kingdoms too. Obeying the death song in his blood, Lorcan let his shields drop. He did not wish it to be easy. He wanted to feel each blow, see the enemy's life drain out beneath his sword. He didn't care what came of it. No one would care if he made it back to the keep anyway. He didn't balk as he engaged the 10 soldiers who charged for him. Perhaps he deserved what happened next. Deserved it for his pathetic thoughts, or his arrogance in lowering his shields. One moment one moment, every time I say one moment, I get stressed out. One moment he was handily sending the Morath grunts back to their dark maker. One moment he was grinning, even as he tasted their vile blood spraying in the air. A flash of metal at his back, Lorcan whirled, sword rising but too late. What do you mean too late? What the fuck do you mean too late? What do you mean right now? Stop sending me white hearts. Stop sending me white hearts right now. What the fuck do you mean? What the fuck do you mean? No, no, y'all are shitting me. Y'all are shitting me. No. Y'all are shitting my dick right now. Y'all are. Y'all always do this. He's fine. He's literally fine. Y'all always do this to me. The Valg soldier's blade swept upward. Lorcan arched, bellowing as flesh tore along his spine. No armor. There had been no armor to fit them across their torsos. The Morath soldier moved again, more adept than the others. Perhaps the man he'd infested had some skill on the battlefield, something the demon wielded to its advantage. Lorcan could barely lift his sword before the soldier plunged his own into Lorcan's gut. Lorcan fell, sword clattering. Icy mud sucked. Oh, I know what this is. Okay. I know what this is. He's hurt, right? He's hurt. He's gonna go to Elide on his deathbed, right? She's gonna take back everything that he said, and he's gonna forgive her, and we're gonna be fine. That's what this is for. That's why this is happening. Lorcan fell, sword clattering. Icy mud sucked at his face, as if it would swallow him whole, pull him down into the dark depths of Hela's realm, where he deserved to be. The earth shook beneath thundering hooves, and arrows screamed overhead. Then there was roaring, and then blackness. She forgot about the dam. I don't give a shit about the dam anymore. I don't give a... This is where I'm at right now. This is where my mind is gonna stay until the next time that I see him. I don't give two shits about what else happens. This chapter, I'm staying in this chapter until we come back to him. Yeah. Chapter 59. Just know that. My mind is not what I'm reading. My mind is with Lorcan, always. Chapter 59. The Kagan's army took no prisoners. A few of Morath's soldiers tried to escape into the city. Standing beside Aelin on the keep battlements, Rowan watched the Rucks pick them off with lethal efficiency. On the plain that the dam is gonna flood. Okay? I don't think the dam has broken yet. There's still plenty of time to find him, right? He's unconscious. They're gonna notice that he's missing. We're gonna be made to think, oh shit, the dam is gonna literally drown him, and then he's gonna get picked up right before. I know how this works, y'all. I know how this works. We love an optimist. Sorry. His ears still rang with the din of battle, his breath a rasping beat echoed by Aelin. Already the small wounds on him had begun to heal, a tingling itch beneath his stained clothes. The gash he'd taken to his leg, however, would need longer. Across the plain, stretching toward the horizon, the Kagan's army made sure their kills stayed down. Swords and spears flashed in the afternoon light as they rose and fell, severing heads. Rowan had always remembered the chaos and rush of battle, but this, the dazed, weary aftermath, this he'd forgotten. Healers already made their way over the battlefield. See? The battlefield! They're making their way over the battlefield! They're literally... Y'all. Their white banners stark against the sea of black and gold. Those who needed more intensive help were carried off by Rucks and brought right to the chaos of the Great Hall. Atop the blood-slick battlements, their allies and companions around them, Rowan wordlessly passed Aelin the water skin. She drank deeply, then handed it to Fenris. An unleashing and release. That's what the battle had been for his mate. Minimal losses. See? We're good. I'm stressing myself out. I'm sorry. Princess Hussar was saying, a hand braced on a small section of the battlement wall that was not coated in black or red gore. The foot soldiers got hit hardest. The Dargon remained mostly intact. Rowan nodded. Impressive. More than impressive. The Kagan's army had been a beautifully coordinated force, moving across the plain as if they were farmers reaping wheat. Had he not been swept into the dance of battle, he might have stopped to marvel at them. The princess turned to Kale, seated in a wheelchair, his face grim. On your end? Kale glanced to his father, who observed the battlefield with crossed arms. His father said without looking at them, "Many. We'll leave it at that." Pain seemed to flicker in the bastard's eyes, but he said nothing more. Kale gave Hussar an apologetic frown, his hands tightening on the chair's arms. The soldiers of Anielle, however bravely they'd fought, were not a trained unit. Many of those who had survived were seasoned warriors who'd fought the wild men up in the fangs. Kale had told Rowan earlier. Most of the dead had not. Hussar at last looked Aelin over. "I heard you put on a show today." Rowan braced himself. Aelin turned from the battlefield and inclined her head. "You look as if you did too." Indeed, Hussar's ornate armor was splattered with black blood. She'd been in the thick of it, atop her Munich horse, and had ridden right up to the gates, but the princess made no further comment. Irritation, deep and nearly hidden, flashed in Aelin's eyes, yet she didn't speak again, didn't push the princess about their next steps. She just watched the battlefield once more, chewing on her lip. She'd barely stopped during the battle, halting only when there had been no more Valg left to kill, and in the minutes since the walls had been cleared, she'd remained quiet, distant, as if she was still climbing out of that calm, calculating place she descended into while fighting. She hadn't bothered to remove any of her armor. The bronze battle crown was caked with blood, her hair matted with it. Kale's father had taken one look at her armor, at Rowan's, and gone white with rage. Yet KoA had merely wheeled his chair to his father's side, snarling something too soft for Rowan to hear, and the man backed off. For now, they had bigger things to consider, things that drove his mate to gnaw on her lip, when Prince Kashin's army might arrive, if they would indeed head northward to Terrasin, if today had been enough to win them over. Two shapes took form in the sky, Kadara and Salki, soaring for the keep at an almost unchecked speed. People scrambled out of the... It's fine, he's fine, he's fine. He's fine. People... Okay. People scrambled out of the Ruxway as Sartak and Nesrin landed on the battlements, sliding off their saddles and stalking right up to them. "We have a problem," Nesrin said, her face ashen. Indeed, Sartak's lips were bloodless. Both of their scents were drenched in fear. The wheels of KoA's chair splashed through puddled blood. "What is it?" Aelin straightened, Gavriel and Fenris going still. Why is no one asking where he is? That's what I want to know. That'd be my first question. When I see that we're all in this room together, we're all here together, and there's one missing, and his name is Lorcan, that's the first question I'm asking. Where is Lorcan? Why is no one asking? Nesrin pointed across the city to the wall of mountains. "We intercepted a group of Morath soldiers toward the end of the battle, trying to bring that dam down." Rowan swore, and KoA echoed it. "I'm assuming they didn't succeed thanks to you." Kaelin. Who the fuck is Kaelin? Aelin said, gazing toward that too-near dam, the raging waters of the upper lake and river in it. It held at bay, sorry. Partially, Sartak said, a muscle feathering in his jaw. But we arrived after much damage had already been done. "Out with it," Hussar hissed. Sartak's dark eyes flashed. "We need to evacuate our army off the plain, right now." "Is it going to break?" It's going to break? KoA's father demanded. Nesrin winced. "It likely will." "It could burst at any moment." Sartak gestured to the Kagan's army on the plain. "We need to get them out." "There's nowhere for them to go," KoA's father said. "The water will roar for miles, and this keep cannot hold all your forces." Indeed, Rowan realized, the keep, despite its high position, wouldn't fit the size of the army on the plain. Not even close. And the keep, towering high above, would be the only thing that could withstand the tidal wave of freezing water that would sweep from the mountains and across the plain, obliterating everything in its path. Hussar fixed her burning stare on KoA. "Where do we tell them to run?" "Some in the rucks," KoA said. "Have them gather up as many as they can fly. Fly them out to this peak behind us." He motioned to the small mountain into which the keep had been built. "Put them on the rocks. Put them anywhere." "And those that don't make it to the rocks?" The princess... "What do you mean, those who don't make it to the rocks? Why would you say that when you know our situation right now? Why would she say that?" "And those that don't make it to the rocks?" The princess pressed, something like panic cracking through her fierce face. Rowan's own heart thundered. They had won the battle only for the enemy to get the final say in their victory. Morath would not allow the Kagan's army to walk off the plain. It would destroy this army, the shred of hope, in a simple, brutal blow. Was it a trap all along? KoA rubbed at his jaw. Erwin knew I was bringing an army. Did he pick Anielle for this, knowing I'd come and he'd use the dam to wipe our host anyway? "Think on it later," Aelin warned, her face as grave as Rowan's. She scanned the plain. "Tell them to run. If they cannot get a ruck, then run. If they make it to Oakwald's edge, they might stand a chance if they can climb into a tree." His maid didn't mention that with a wave that size, those trees would be submerged or ripped from their roots. Gavriel asked, "There's no way to fix the damage done?" "We checked," Sartak said, throat bobbing. Morath knew where to strike. "What of your magic?" Fenris asked Rowan. "Could you freeze it? The river?" He'd already thought of it. Rowan shook his head. "It's too deep, and its current too strong. Perhaps if he had all his cousins. But Enda and Celine were up north, their siblings and kin with them." "Open the gates," KoA said quietly. "Any nearby are to run here. Those farthest out will have to flee for the forest." Rowan met Aelin's stare. Her hands began shaking. "This cannot end here," she seemed to say. Panic indeed flared in her eyes. Rowan gripped her trembling hand and squeezed. There was no truth or lie that might soothe her. No truth or lie to save the army on the plane. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I don't give two shits about the army. There's only one bitch in that plane that I give a shit about. At least the lead is safe. Why are you saying that? No. There's no way. How would she even get... If you like background music while you read, I don't think I'll be able to play it though. I can't play music while I'm going live. Girl, I was giving you some hope to cling to. Well, you see, there is no hope for me right now. I'm in my panic mode, my overthinking mode. Anything you throw at me, I will twist it and make it into something that I need to worry about. I wish I could. I can't, but I'm like live on my phone and I can't play music while I'm live. Oh, stop. Maybe that means something's about to happen. No. You're sending me music? That means something's about to happen. Yes, please send it to me and I'll reread it, and I know I'll probably cry to it later. Why are we on the leads? Why are we with the lead right now? She's on my hit list. She's on my hit list. Elide found her companions and their allies not in a council room, but gathered on the battlements, as if bodies and gore didn't lie around them. She cringed at each step through blood, both black and red, trying not to meet the sightless eyes of fallen soldiers. She'd been sent by Irene to see how KoA fared, a panting, fearful question from a wife who had not heard anything of his fate since the battle began. Get me out of this one alive, please, y'all. Get me out of this one alive. I'm begging. After hours helping the healers, Elide had been desperate to escape the room that reeked of blood and refuse. Yet any relief at the fresh air at the ended battle had been short-lived when she saw the bloody battlements, when she noted her companions' pale faces, their tense words. All of them were gazing between the mountains and the battlefield. Something had gone wrong. Something was wrong. The battlefield stretched into the distance, healers darting amongst the felled bodies with white banners high to indicate their locations. So many dead and wounded, a sea of them. Elide reached KoA's side just as Nesra and Philippe leapt atop her beautiful ruck, launching into a dive for the army below. No, the other rucks. Elide laid a hand on Lord KoA's shoulder, drawing his attention from where he watched Nesrin fly off. Blood splattered, but his bronze eyes were clear. Manifesting a boring chapter. Me and you both, bestie. Me and you both. And full of terror. Any message that Irene had given Elide faded from her memory. What's wrong? It was Aylin who answered, her bloodied armor strange and ancient, a vision of old. The dam is going to break, the queen said hoarsely, and wipe away anyone on the plane. Oh gods. Oh gods. Elide glanced between them and knew the answer to her next question. What can be done? Nothing. Rucks took to the skies, flapping toward them, soldiers in their talons and clinging to their backs. Has anyone warned the healers? Elide pointed to the white banners waving so far out into the plain. The healer on high. Hafisa was down there, Irene had said. Silence. Then Prince Sartek swore in his own tongue and sprinted for his golden ruck. He was spearing for the battlefield within seconds, his shouts ringing out. Kadara dipped every few moments, and when she rose again, another small figure was in her talons. Healers grabbing as many of them as he could. I need her to ask the question that I am dying to know. Because me and Elide are both in love with Lorcan, right? This would be the first question we would ask in this situation. I need her to ask it right fucking now. Like, I need her to ask this question. She's the only one I know that gives a shit about him. So I need her to ask it. I need her to ask. I need her to say, where is Lorcan? I need her to say it. Elide whirled to her companions as soldiers began running for the keep, trampling corpse and injured alike. Orders went out in the language of the southern continent, and more soldiers on the battlefield leapt into action. What else can we do? That's the wrong fucking question! Elide demanded. Aelin and Rowan only stared toward the battlefield, watching with Fenris and Gavriel as the Rooks raced to save as many as they could. Behind them, Princess Asar paced, and Kale and his father I don't think y'all understand how fucking hard my heart is beating right now. How fast. As the Rooks raced to save as many as they could. Behind them, Princess Asar paced, and Kale and his father murmured about where they might fit everyone in the keep. Those who survived. Elide looked at them again, looked at all of them, and then asked quietly, "Where is Lorcan?" Please don't do this to me right now. Please don't do this to me right now. None of them turned. Elide asked louder, "Where is Lorcan?" Gavriel's tawny eyes scanned hers, confusion dancing there. He went out into the battlefield during the fighting. I saw him just before the Kagan's troops reached him. "Where is he?" Elide's voice broke. Fenris faced her now. Then Rowan and Aelin. Elide begged, voice breaking. "Where is Lorcan?" From their stunned silence, she knew they hadn't so much as wondered. None of y'all deserve him. None of y'all deserve him. I'm so sorry. None of y'all deserve him. No, please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Oh, you can't. You literally can't. You can't take Sam and Lorcan from me. You cannot. You can't. Elide whirled to the battlefield, to that endless stretch of fallen bodies, soldiers fleeing, many of the wounded being abandoned where they lay. So many bodies. So many soldiers down there. Where? No one answered. Elide pointed toward the battlefield and snarled at Gavriel. "Where did you see him join with the Kagan's forces?" "Nearly on the other side of the field," Gavriel answered, voice strained, and pointed across the plain. I didn't see him after that." "Shit," Fenris breathed. Rowan said to him, "Use your magic. Jump to the field, find him, and bring him back." Relief crumpled Elide's chest, until Fenris said, "I can't." "You didn't use it once during the battle," Rowan challenged. "You should be fully primed to do it." Fenris blanched beneath the blood on his face and cast pleading eyes to Elide. "I can't." This is not the time, Fenris, please! This is not the time for trauma! This is not! This is not... Oh, this is not this. It's fine. It's fine. Then Rowan growled, "You won't." He pointed with a bloody finger to the battlefield. "You'd let him die. And for what?" Aelin forgave him. His tattooed scrunched as he snarled again. "Save him." Fenris swallowed, but Aelin said, "Leave it, Rowan." Rowan snarled at her too. She snarled right back. "Leave it." Some unspoken conversation passed between them, and the hope flaring in Elide's chest went out as Rowan backed down, gave Fenris an apologetic nod. Fenris, looking like he was going to be sick, just faced the battlefield again. Elide backed away a step, then another. Lorcan couldn't be dead. She would know if he were dead. She would know it, in her heart, her soul, if he were gone. He was down there. He was down there in that army, perhaps injured and bleeding out. No one stopped her as Elide raced inside the keep. For each step limped, pain cracking through her leg, but she didn't falter as she hit the interior stairwell and plunged into the chaos. She had made him a promise. She had sworn him an oath all those months ago. "I will always find you." I know, I feel bad for Fenris. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Fenris. I do feel bad. I'm sorry. It's an impossible situation that he's caught in. I'm sorry. My emotion got the best of me. Soldiers and healers fled up the stairs, shoving past Alid. The shouting was near deafening, bouncing off the ancient stones. She battled her way down, sobbing through her teeth. I will always find you. Pushing, elbowing, bellowing at the frantic people who ran past her, Alid fought for each step downward, toward the gates. People screamed, a never-ending flood surging up the stairs. Still, Alid pushed her way down, losing a step here, another there. They did not even look at her, even try to clear a way as they flowed upward. It was only when Alid lost another step that she roared into the stairwell. "Clear a path for the queen!" No one listened, so she did it again. She filled her voice with command, with every ounce of power that she'd seen the Fey males use to intimidate their opponents. "Clear a path for the queen!" This time, people pressed against the walls. Alid took the small opening and screamed her order again and again, ankle barking with every step down. But she made it. Made it to the... I don't want to read what's coming next. I don't want to read this anymore. It's not fun for me anymore. I honestly didn't... I knew I had to worry about some people, but I never, in my wildest dreams, thought that this was how shit was gonna go. I did not think that this was the path we were taking. Alid managed all of 5 limping steps toward the open gate before she knew it would be impossible to cross the field, to find him on the endless plain before that dam burst and he was swept away, before he was gone forever. He was not dead. He was not dead. I will always find you. Alid scanned the gates, the skies for any sign of a ruck that might carry her, but they soared to the upper levels, crawling with soldiers and healers, some even depositing their charges onto the mountain itself. And at ground level, none would hear her cries for help. No soldiers would stop either. Alid scanned the other end of the gate's entryway, beheld the horses being led out from their stables by frantic handlers, the beasts bucking at the panic around them as they were hauled toward the team ramps. A black mare reared, her cry a sharp warning before she slashed her hooves at the handler. Lord Kale's horse, sorry. The handler shrieked and fell back, barely grasping the reins as the horse stomped, her ears flat to her head. Alid did not think, did not consider. She limped for the horses in the stables. She said to the frantic handler, still backing away from the half-wild horse, "I'll get her." The man, white-faced, threw her the reins. "Good luck." Then he too ran. The mare, Faracia, yanked so hard on the reins that Alid was nearly hurled across the stones, but she planted her feet, legs screaming, and said to the horse, "I have need of you, fierce heart." She met Faracia's dark, raging eyes. "I have need of you." Her voice broke. "Please." And gods above, that horse stilled, blinked. Horses and handlers streamed past them, but Alid held firm, waited until Faracia lowered her head, as if in permission. The stirrups were low enough, thanks to Lord Kale's long legs, that Alid could reach them. She still bit down in her shout as her weight settled on her bad ankle. As she pushed and heaved herself into Faracia's fine saddle, a small mercy that they had not even had time to unsaddle the horse after battle. A set of what seemed to be braces hung from its sides, surely to keep Lord Kale stabilized, and Alid unhooked them. Any weight, anything to slow her down, had to be discarded. Alid gathered the reins. "To the battlefield, Faracia." With a whining cry, Faracia plunged into the fray. Soldiers leapt from their path, and Alid did not stop to apologize, did not stop for anyone, as she and the black mare charged toward the gates, then through them and onto the plain. They either die together or they don't die at all. I cannot have one living without the other. I'm so sorry. I cannot have one living without the other. They either die together or they don't die at all. Chapter 60. Rowan knew his magic would merely delay the inevitable. He debated flying to the dam to see if he might hold the structure in place for just long enough, if he could not halt the river entirely, but the force of the thing on the other side. It could not be stopped. Soldiers and healers raced for the keep, and the rucks darting across the battlefield to bear those first in the water's path to safety, but not fast enough. Even without knowing when the dam would break, it would not be fast enough. Was Lorcan currently amongst those running, or had he managed to get onto a ruck? The power, Fenry said quietly to him, gripping the gore-slick wall. It was the one thing Connell and I shared. I know, Rowan said. He shouldn't have pushed. I'm sorry. Fenris just nodded. I haven't been able to stomach it since then. I'm not even certain I can use it again, he said, and repeated. I'm sorry. Rowan clapped him on the shoulder, another thing he'd make Maeve pay for. You might not have even found him anyway. Fenris's jaw tightened. He could be anywhere. He could be dead, murmured Princess Hussar. Or injured, Kale cut in, wheeling to the wall's edge to survey the battlefield below and distant dam beyond it. Aylin, a few feet away, gazed toward it as well, her blood-soaked hair ripping free of its braid in the harsh wind, flowing toward those mountains, the destruction that would soon be unleashed. He said nothing, had done nothing since Nesrin and Sartak brought the news, her exact sort of nightmare, he realized, to be unable to help, to be forced to watch while others suffered. No words could comfort her, no words could fix this, stop this. I could try to track him, Gavriel offered. Rowan shook off his creeping dread. I'll fly out, try to pinpoint him, and signal back to you. Don't bother, said Princess Hussar. And Rowan was about to snarl his retort when she pointed to the battlefield. She's already ahead of you. Rowan whirled, the others following suit. Did they not think that she was gonna go out there after him? Did that not cross their mind? I feel like that would have been my first thought when she literally took off running. Oh shit, she's gonna go try and find him. Rowan whirled, the others following suit. No, Fenris breathed. There, galloping across the plain on a familiar black horse, was a lead. Ferisha, Kale murmured. She'll be killed, said Gavriel, tensing as if he might jump off the battlements and chase after her. Ferisha leapt over fallen bodies, weaving between the injured and dead, a lead twisting this way and that in the saddle, and from the distance Rowan could make out her mouth moving, shouting one word, one name, over and over. Lorcan. If any of you go down there, Hussar warned, you'll be killed too. It went against every instinct, against the centuries of training and fighting he'd done with Lorcan, but the princess was right. To lose one life was better than several, especially when he would need his cadre so badly during the rest of this war. Lorcan would agree, had taught Rowan to make those sort of hard calls. Still, Aylin remained silent, as if she'd descended deep within herself and gazed at the battlefield, at the small rider and the mighty horse racing across it. I'm going to start crying. I'm going to start crying. I'm literally going to start crying. I'm going to start crying. Nothing has even happened yet, and I'm about to start fucking crying. This fucking hair. Hold on. Won't get out of my eye. Oh, I see it. Oh, I see it. Oh, I see it. I think I can get it. Hold on. Hold on. Because I cannot read this with a fucking hair in my eye. I'm sorry, I can't. Did I get it? Nope. Did I get it? Nope. Did I get it? Nope. Oh my god. I can literally see it. Oh, I got it. No, I didn't. Oh, god damn it. Ow. I just poked myself in the eye. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. It's been distracting me this whole live. I literally cannot do this with this hair in my eye. Oh. Oh. I almost had it. I almost had it. I almost had it. It's like right fucking here. Ah! I got it. Son of a bitch. I want to see it. I don't even know if y'all can see it. You can't see it. I got it. Okay. I am stalling. Leave me alone. If something happens to them, I'm not even going to want to read this book anymore. Like, I'm not even going to want to finish it. Okay. Horatio was a tempest beneath her, but the mare did not seek to unseat a lead as they thundered across the body-strewn plain. I think I'm going to be like Aelin. I'm going to detach myself right now. Unseat a lead as they thundered across the body-strewn plain. Lorcan, her shout. I don't even want to read this! Her shout was swallowed by the wind, by the screams of fleeing soldiers and people, by the shriek of the rucks above. Lorcan, she searched every corpse she passed for a hint of that shining black hair, that harsh face. So many. The field of the dead stretched on forever, bodies piled several deep. Horatio leapt over them, cutting sharp turns as the lead pivoted to look and look and look. Dargan horses and riders ran past, some to the keep, some to the distant forest along the horizon. Horatio wove between them, biting at those in her path. Lorcan! How small her cry sounded, how feeble. Still, the dam held. I will always find you. And her words, her stupid, hateful words to him. Had she done this? Brought this upon him? Asked some god to do this? Her words had all melted away the moment she'd realized he was not on the battlements. The past few months had melted away entirely. Lorcan! Unfaltering, Horatio kept moving, her black mane streaming in the wind. The dam had to hold. It would hold until she brought him back to the keep. Sibylle did not stop, did not look toward the doom that lurked, waiting to be unleashed. She rode and rode and rode. Atop the battlement, KoA didn't know what to watch. The dam, the people fleeing its oncoming destruction, or the young lady of Parenth racing across the battlefield atop the horse. A warm hand settled on his shoulder, and he knew it was Irene without turning. I just heard about the dam. I'd sent a lead to see if you were... His wife's words trailed off as she beheld the lone rider charging away from the masses, thundering for the keep. Silva, save her, Irene whispered. Lorcan's down there, was all KoA said by way of explanation. The females were taut as bowstrings while the young woman crossed the battlefield bit by bit. The odds of her finding Lorcan, let alone before the dam burst. Still, a lead kept riding, racing against death itself. Princess Azar said quietly, the girl's a fool. The bravest I've ever seen, but a fool nonetheless. Aelin said nothing, her eyes distant, like she'd retreated into herself at the realization that this sliver of hope was about to be washed away, her friends with it. Hela's guards Lorcan, Fenris murmured, and Aneath, his consort, watches over a lead. Hold on. You mean to tell me that the goddess that watches over a lead is consort to the god that watches over Lorcan? Are they not written in the fucking stars? Are you kidding me? I mean, come on, y'all, come on. They are written in the stars, literally meant to be together. That lake is looking real good right now. Oh my god. Perhaps they will find each other. Hela's horse, KoA said. Oh my god! Oh my god! This shit is not fun. This shit is not fun. Oh my god. They turned toward him, dragging their eyes from the field. KoA shook his head and gestured to the field, to the black mare and her rider. I call Faracia Hela's horse. I've done so from the moment I met her. As if meeting that horse, bringing her here, was not as much for him as it was for this desperate race across an endless battlefield. Irene clasped his hand, like she understood too. Silence fell along their section of the battlement. There were no words left to say. They're literally fine then. I mean, you have all of this, and you're telling me that there's a possibility that they're gonna die? No. Like, they literally have to live now. Like, they literally have to live. Yes, because they're meant to be. None of these bitches are dying today. None of them are dying today. None of them. Or die together. I hope they do die together. If they die together, I mean, obviously I'm going to be sad, but I won't be as sad if one of them dies and the other one doesn't. Don't look at them. Ah! Lorcan! Elid's voice broke on the cry. She'd lost count of how many times she'd shouted it now. No sign of him. She aimed for the lake, closer to the dam. He would have chosen the lake for its defensive advantages. Bodies were a blur beneath, around them. So many Valg lying on the field. Some reached pale hands for Faracia, as if they'd grab her, rip her apart, beg her for help. The mare trampled them into the mud, bones snapping and skulls cracking. He had to be out here, had to be somewhere, alive. Hurt, but alive. She knew it. The lake was a gray sprawl to her left, a mockery to the hell to be unleashed at any moment. Lorcan! They'd reached the heart of the battlefield, and Elid slowed Faracia enough to stand in the stirrups, biting down on the agony in her ankle. She had never felt so small, so inconsequential, a speck of nothing in this doom sea. Elid dropped back into the saddle, nudged her horse with her heels, and tugged Faracia farther toward the glittering silver expanse. He had to have gone to the lake. The horse plunged into motion, her chest heaving like a mighty bellows. On, black and golden armor, blood and snow and mud, the dam still held. But there, Elid yanked on the reins, slowing the charging horse. There, not too far from the water's edge, lay a patch of felled Morath soldiers, a swath of them, not a single set of golden armor. Even where the Kagan's army had swept through, they had lost soldiers. The distribution across the battlefield had by no means been even, but there had been corpses in golden armor amongst the mass of black. Yet here there were none. No arrows or spears either to account for the felling of so many. A veritable road of Valg demons flowed ahead. Elid followed it, scanned every corpse, every helmeted face, her mouth going dry. On, the wake of his destruction went. So many. He had killed so many. Her breath rasped in her throat as they neared the end of the trail of death, where golden bodies again began to appear. Nothing. Elid halted Faracia. Gavriel had said he'd last seen him right here. Had he plunged behind their allies' lines and moved on from there? He might have walked off this field, she realized, might currently be back at the keep or in Oakwald, and she would have ridden here for nothing. Lorcan! She screamed it, so loud it was a wonder her throat didn't bleed. Lorcan! The dam remained intact. Which of her breaths would be her last? Lorcan! A pained groan answered from behind. Oh my god, he's there. Oh my god, she found him. Oh my god, she fucking found him. She fucking found him. Shit. Elid twisted in the saddle and scanned the path of Valg dead behind her. A broad, tanned hand rose from beneath a pile of... from beneath a thick pile of them, and fought for purchase on a soldier's breastplate, not 20 feet away. A sob cracked from her, and Faracia cantered toward the straining, bloodied hand. The horse skidded to a halt, gore flying from her hooves. Elid threw herself from the saddle before scrambling toward him. Armor and blade sliced into her, dead flesh slapping against her skin as she shoved away demon corpses, grunting at their weight. Lorcan met her halfway, that hand becoming an arm, then two, pushing off the bodies piled atop him. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. Please, I don't want anything to happen to them. I'm gonna cry. Elide took one look at the injury to Lorcan's middle and tried not to fall to her knees. His blood leaked everywhere. The wound not closed, not in the way that Fae should be able to heal themselves. The injury that had felled him would have been catastrophic if it had taken all his power to heal him this little. But she did not say that, did not say anything other than, "The dam is about to break." Black blood splattered Lorcan's ashen face, his dark eyes fogged with pain. Elide braced her feet, swallowing her scream of pain, and gripped him under the shoulders. "We need to get you out of here." His breathing was a wet rasp as she tried to lift him. He might as well have been a boulder, might as well have been as immovable as the keep itself. "Lorcan," she begged, voice breaking, "we have to get you out of here." His legs shifted, drawing an agonized groan. She had never heard him so much as whimper, had never seen him unable to rise. "Get up," she said. "Get up!" Lorcan's hands gripped her waist, and Elide couldn't stop her cry of pain at the weight he placed on her, the bones in her foot and ankle grinding together. His legs not even kneeling beneath him. He paused. "Do it," she begged. "Get up!" But his dark eyes shifted to the horse. Faracia approached, steps unsteady over the corpses. She did not so much as flinch as Lorcan grasped the bottom straps of the saddle. His other hand on Elide's shoulder and moved his legs under him again. His breathing turned jagged. Fresh blood dribbled from his stomach, flowing over the crusted remains on his jacket and pants. As he began to rise, Elide beheld the wound slicing up the left side of his back. Flesh lay open, bone peeking through. Oh, gods. Oh, gods. Elide ducked further under his arm, until his arm was slung across her shoulders. Thighs burning, ankles shrieking, Elide pushed up. Lorcan pulled at the same time, Faracia holding steady. He groaned again, his body teetering. "Don't stop," Elide hissed. "Don't you dare stop." His breath came in shallow gasps, but Lorcan got his feet under him, inch by inch. Slipping his arm from Elide's shoulder, he lurched to grip the saddle, to cling to it. He panted and panted, fresh blood sliding from his back too. This ride would be agony, but they had no choice. None at all. "Now up." She didn't let him hear her terror and despair. "Get into the saddle." He leaned his brow against Faracia's dark side, swaying enough that Elide wrapped a careful arm around his waist. "You didn't let him die," she snapped, "and you're not dead yet. We're not dead yet, so get in that saddle." When Lorcan did nothing other than breathe and breathe and breathe, Elide spoke again. "I promised to always find you. I promised you, and you promised me. I came for you because of it. I am here because of it. I'm here for you. Do you understand? And if we don't get onto that horse now, we won't stand a chance against the dam. We will die." Lorcan panted for another heartbeat, then another, and then, gritting his teeth, his hands white-knuckled on the saddle, he lifted his leg enough to slide one foot into the stirrup. Now would be the true test, that mighty push upward, the swinging of his leg over Faracia's body to the other side of the saddle. Elide positioned herself at his back, so careful of the terrible slash down his body. Her feet sank ankle-deep into freezing mud. She didn't dare look toward the dam. Not yet. "Get up." Her command barked over the panicked cries of the fleeing soldiers. "Get in the saddle, now." Lorcan didn't move, his body trembling. Elide screamed, "Get up, now!" and shoved him upward. Lorcan let out a bellow that rang in her ears. The saddle groaned at his weight, and blood gushed from his wounds, but then he was rising into the air, toward the horse's back. Elide threw her weight into him, and something cracked in her ankle, so violently that pain burst through her, blinding and breathless. She stumbled, losing her grip, but Lorcan was up, his leg over the other side of the horse. He slouched over it, an arm cradling his abdomen, dark hair hanging low enough to brush Faracia's back. Clenching her jaw against the pain in her ankle, Elide straightened and eyed the distance. A long, bloodied arm dropped into her line of sight, an offer up. She ignored it. "What?" She'd gotten him into the saddle. She wasn't about to send him flying off of it again. Oh, okay. Elide backed a step, limping. Not allowing herself to register the pain, Elide ran the few steps to Faracia and leapt. Lorcan's hand gripped the back of her jacket, and the breath going from her as her stomach hit the unforgiving lip of the saddle, and Elide crawled for perches. The strength in Lorcan's arm didn't waver as he pulled her almost across his lap, as he grunted in pain while she righted herself. But she made it. got her legs on either side of the horse, and took up the reins. Lorcan looped his arm around her waist, his brutalized body a solid mass at her back. Alid at last dared to look at the dam. A ruck soared from it, frantically waving a golden banner. Soon. It would break soon. Alid gathered Ferocia's... Sorry, my phone is dying. Okay. Alid gathered Ferocia's reins. To the keep, friend, she said, digging her heels into the horse's side. Faster than the wind. Feracia obeyed. Alid rocked back into Lorcan as the mare launched into a gallop, earning another groan of pain, but he remained in the saddle, despite the pounding steps that drew agonized breaths from him. Faster, Feracia, Alid called to the horse as she steered her toward the keep. The mountain it had been built into, Nothing had ever seemed so distant, far enough that she could not see if the keep's lower gate was still open, if anyone held it, waited for them. Hold the gate, hold the gate. Every thunderous beat of Feracia's hooves over the corpses of the fallen echoed Alid's silent prayer as they raced across the endless plain. Hold the gate. Well, at least they're together. Chapter 61. Agony was a song in Lorcan's blood, his bones, his breath. Every step of the horse, every leap she made over body and debris, sent it ringing afresh. Sorry, I'm nervous. I'm stuttering. There was no end, no mercy from it. It was all he could do to keep in the saddle, to cling to consciousness, to keep his arms around Alid. She had come for him, had found him, somehow, on this endless battlefield. His name on her lips had been a summons he could never deny, even when death had held him so gently, nestled beneath all those he'd felled and waited for his last breaths. And now, charging toward that too-distant keep, so far behind the droves of soldiers and riders racing for the gates, he wondered if these minutes would be his last. Her last. She had come for him. Lorcan managed to glance toward the dam on their right, toward the ruck rider signaling that it was only a matter of minutes until it unleashed hell over the plain. Okay, but if this ruck rider sees them, why doesn't he come down and get them? Why the fuck does he not come down and get them? He didn't know how it had become weakened. Didn't care. Feracia leapt over a pile of valve bodies, and Lorcan didn't stop his moan as warm blood dribbled down his front and back. Still, Alid kept urging the horse onward, kept them on as straight a path toward the distant keep as possible. No ruck would come to sweep them up. No, his luck had been spent in surviving this long, in her finding him. His power would do nothing against the water. The farthest lines of panic soldiers appeared, and Feracia charged past them. Alid let out a sob, and he followed the line of her sight to the keep gate, still open. Faster, Feracia! She didn't hide the raw terror in her voice, the desperation. Once the dam broke, it would take less than a minute for the tidal wave to reach them. She'd come for him. She'd found him. The world went quiet. The pain in his body faded into nothing. Into something secondary. No. Lorcan slid. My whole body just went numb. Lorcan slid his other arm around Alid, bringing his mouth close to her ear. You have to let me go. Don't get all self-sacrificial right now. Ah! Don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. I'm begging you, please don't do this to me. Don't be Mr. Self-Sacrifice. The dam hasn't even broken yet. The dam hasn't even broken yet. Y'all are there. Oh my God. Please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Each word was gravelly, his voice strained nearly to the point of uselessness. Alid didn't shift her focus from the keep ahead. No. That gentle quiet flowed around him, clearing... Oh, fuck, now I'm about to fucking cry. Ah! Clearing the fog of pain and battle. You have to. You have to, Alid. I'm too heavy, and without my weight, you can make it to the keep in time. Without you, what the fuck was the point in all of this? There would have been no point! No. The salt of her tears filled his nose. Lorcan brushed his mouth over her damp neck, ignoring the roaring pain in his body. The horse galloped and galloped as if she might outrace death itself. Please don't do this to me right now. Please don't do this to me. I'm literally begging you. Please don't do this to me. Oh my God. No! Oh, y'all, please. Oh my god, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Mm-mm. 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 Don't be fucking stupid. I love you, he whispered in the lead's ears. I can't read this. I have loved you from the moment you picked up that axe to slay the Ilkin. Her tears flowed past him in the wind. And I will be with you. His voice broke. But he made himself say the words, the truth in his heart. I will be with you always. Mm-mm. This is not the way it's gonna go. This is not the way it's going to go. He was not frightened of what would come for him once he tumbled off the horse. He was not frightened at all if it meant her reaching the keep. So Lorcan kissed Elid's cheek again, allowed himself to breathe in her scent one last time. I love you, he repeated, and began to withdraw his arms from around her waist. Elid slapped a hand onto his forearm, dug in her nails right into his skin, fierce as any ruck. No. There were no tears in her voice, nothing but solid, unwavering steel. No, she said again, the voice of the Lady of Parenth. Lorcan tried to move his arm, but her grip would not be dislodged. Period. Elid, you cling to your man. You cling to your dumb-ass man. If he tumbled off the horse, she would go with him. Together. They would either outrun this or die together. Elid. But Elid slammed her heels into the horse's side. Slammed her heels into the dark flank and screamed, Fly, Faracia. She cracked the reins. Fly, fly, fly. And God's help her, that horse did. As if the God that had crafted her filled the mare's lungs with his own breath, Faracia gave a surge of speed, faster than the wind, faster than death. Faracia cleared the first of the fleeing Dargan cavalry, past desperate horses and riders that an all-out gallop for the gates. Her mighty heart did not falter, even when Lorcan knew it was raging to the point of bursting. Less than a mile stood between them and the keep. But a thunderous, groaning crack cleaved the world, echoing off the lake, the mountains. There was nothing he could do, nothing that brave, unfaltering horse could do, as the dam ruptured. Oh my God. Well. Nope. They're not dying. They're not. They're not dying, though. Rowan began praying for those on the plain, for the army about to be wiped away as the dam broke. Standing a few feet away, Irene was whispering her prayers too. To Silba, the goddess of gentle deaths. May it be quick, may it be painless. A wall of water, large as a mountain, broke free and rushed toward the city, the plain with the wrath of 1,000 years of confinement. They're not going to make it, Fenris hissed, eyes on Lorcan and Elid, galloping toward them. So close, and yet the wave would arrive in a matter of seconds. Rowan made himself stand there, to watch the last moments of the Lady of Parenth and his former commander. It was all he could offer, witnessing their death, so he might tell. Oh my God, they're not dying though! So he might tell the story to those he encountered, so they would not be forgotten. The roaring of the oncoming wave became deafening, even from miles away. Still, Elid and Lorcan raced, Faracia passing horse after horse after horse. Even up here, would they escape the wave's reach? Rowan dared to survey the battlements, to assess if he needed to get the others, needed to get Aelin to higher ground. But Aelin was not at his side. Oh, where the fuck is she? Where the fuck is she? She was not on the battlement at all. Rowan's heart halted, simply stopped beating as a ruddy brown ruck dropped from the skies, spearing for the center of the plain. Arcus, Bort's ruck, a golden-haired woman dangling from his talons. Aelin was... Arcus neared the earth, talons splaying. Aelin hit the ground, rolling until she uncoiled to her feet, right in the path of that wave. Oh, gods, Fenris breathed, seeing her too. They all saw her, the queen on the plain, the endless wall of water surging for her. The keepstones began shuddering. Rowan threw out a hand to brace himself, fear like nothing he had known ripping through him as Aelin lifted her arms above her head. A pillar of fire shot up around her, lifting her hair with it. The wave roared and roared for her, for the army behind her. The shaking in the keep was not from the wave. It was not from the wall of water at all. Cracks formed in the earth, splintering across it. Spiderwebbing from Aelin. The hot springs, Kale breathed. The valley floor is full of veins into the earth itself, into the burning heart of the world. The keep shook, more violently this time. The pillar of fire sucked back into Aelin. She held out a hand before her, her fist closed, as if it would halt the wave in its tracks. He knew then. Either as her mate or Karanam, he knew. 3 months, Rowan breathed. The other stilled. 3 months, he said again, his knees wobbling. She's been making the descent into her power for 3 months. Damn. Every day she had been with Maeve, bound in iron, she had gone deeper, and she had not tapped too far into that power since they'd freed her because she had kept making the plunge, to gather up the full might of her magic, not for the lock, not for Erwin, but for Maeve's death blow. A few weeks of descent had taken her powers to devastating levels. 3 months of it? Holy gods. Holy rutting gods. And when her fire hit the wall of water now towering over her, when they collided... "Get down," Rowan bellowed over the screaming waters. "Get down now." His companions dropped to the stones, any within earshot doing the same. Rowan plummeted into his power, plummeted into it fast and hard, ripping out any remaining shred of magic. Alid and Lorcan were still too far from the gates. Thousands of soldiers were still too far from the gates as the wave crested above them, as Aelin opened her hand toward it. Fire erupted. Cobalt fire. The raging soul of a flame. A tidal wave of it. Taller... Okay, sorry. Phone's dying. And where water met a wall of fire, where 1,000 years of confinement met 3 months of it, the world exploded. Blistering steam, capable of melting flesh from bone, shot across the plain. With a roar, Rowan threw all that remained of his magic toward the onslaught of steam, a wall of wind that shoved it toward the lake, the mountains. Still the waters came, breaking against the flames that did not so much as yield an inch. Maeve's death blow, spent here, to save the army that might mean Terracen's salvation, to spare the lives on the plain. Rowan gritted his teeth, panting against his fraying power. A burnout lurked deadly close. The raging wave threw itself over and over and over into the wall of flame. Rowan didn't see if Alid and Lorcan made it into the keep, if the other soldiers and riders on the plain stopped to gape. Princess Hussar said, rising beside him, "That power is no blessing. Tell that to your soldiers," Fenris snarled, standing too. "I didn't mean it that way," Hussar snipped, and awe was indeed stark on her face. Rowan leaned against the battlements, panting hard as he fought to keep the lethal steam from flowing toward the army, as he cooled and sent it whisking away. Solid hands slid under her arms, and then under his arm, and then Fenris and Gavriel were there, propping him up between them. A minute passed, then another. The wave began to lower. Still the fire burned. Rowan's head pounded, his mouth going dry. Time slipped from him. A coppery tang filled his mouth. Oh, sorry. The wave lowered farther, raging waters quieting. Then roaring turned to lapping, rapids and eddies, until the wall of flame began to lower too, tracking the waters down and down, letting them seep into the cracks of the earth. Rowan's knees buckled, but he held on to his magic long enough for the steam to lessen, for it too to be calmed. It filled the plain, turning the world into drifting mist, blocking the view of the queen in its center. Then silence, utter silence. Fire flickered through the mist, blue turning to gold and red, a muted, throbbing glow. Rowan spat blood onto the battlement stones, his breath like shards of glass in his throat. The glowing flame shrank, steam rippling past, until there was only a slim pillar of fire, veiled in the mist-shrouded plain. Not a pillar of fire, but Aelin, glowing white and hot, as if she had given herself so wholly to the flame that she had become fire herself. The fire-bringer, someone whispered down the battlements. The mist rippled and billowed, casting her into nothing but a glowing effigy? Whatever. The silence turned reverent. A gentle wind from the north swept down. The veil of mist pulled back, and there she was. She glowed from within, glowed golden, tendrils of her hair floating on a phantom wind. Mala's air, Irene breathed. Down on the plain, Elide and Lorcan had halted. The wind pushed away more of the drifting mist, clearing the land beyond Aelin, and where that mighty, lethal wave had loomed, where death had charged toward them, nothing remained. Damn. For 3 months, she had sung to the darkness and the flame, and they had sung back. For 3 months, she had burrowed so deep inside her power that she had plundered undiscovered depths. While Maeve and Kareen had worked on her, she had delved, never letting them know what she mined, what she gathered to her, day by day by day. A death blow, one to wipe a dark queen from the earth forever. She'd kept that power coiled in herself even after she'd been freed from the irons, had struggled to keep it down these weeks, the strain enormous. Some days it had been easier to barely speak. Some days swaggering arrogance had been her key to ignoring it. Yet when she had seen that wave, when she had seen Elide and Lorcan choosing death together, when she had seen that the army that might save Terrasen, she'd known. She'd felt the fire sleeping under this city, and knew they had come here for a reason. She had come here for this reason. A river still flowed from the dam, harmless and small, wending toward the lake. Nothing more. Aelin lifted a glowing hand before her as blessed, cooling emptiness filled her at last. Slowly, starting from her fingertips, the glow faded, as if she were forged anew, forged back into her body, back into Aelin. Clarity, sharp and crystal clear, filled its wake, as if she could see again, breathe again. Inch by inch, the golden glow faded into her skin and bone, into a woman once more. Already a white-tailed hawk launched skyward, but as the last of the glow faded, disappearing out through her toes, Aelin fell to her knees in the utter silence of the world and curled onto her side. She had the vague sense of strong, familiar arms scooping her up, of being carried onto a broad, feathery back, still in those arms, of soaring through the skies, the last of the mist rippling away into the afternoon sun, and then sweet darkness. Damn. Holy shit. Wow. Wow. I told y'all they weren't gonna die. Okay, but I'm kind of like upset. Not upset. Worried is the more appropriate term. I'm more worried for when people actually do start dying. I'm not going to believe it. When you think about it, this book really hasn't been that bad in terms of like deaths, I guess. I know, but I'm saying, I know there's more deaths to come. Like, I know. I'm saying that when they start coming, I'm not going to expect it. Like, cause like, I was worried about Lorcan in the lead, but I wasn't worried because I knew that they weren't gonna die. Like, I just had a feeling. I know I'm gonna regret saying this, but like, you should expect that. I know, but okay, and this is my fault, because like when y'all told me that this book was gonna be like pain from beginning to end, I expected people to just be dying left and right, like dying left and right from the start. And I feel like she's saving for all the deaths for like the end, or not the end, but like maybe like from here on. And I was expecting them to start from the beginning. And so now when people do start actually dying, I'm not going to be ready for it, and I'm not going to like believe it, and it's just gonna make it that much harder for me. She's okay as long as the lead and Lorcan are okay. I mean, yes. Yes. Yes and no. Obviously no. And I'm not trying to say that the book isn't like gonna be bad. I know it's gonna be bad, but I had hyped it up too much in my mind, so now I'm like expecting it and not expecting it. Yeah. Oh, that was scary though. I cried today. I haven't cried since like since Aelin was held prisoner. The beginning for me was super bad. I was sick to my stomach. Yeah, the beginning was rough because of Aelin's like capture and all that. But I thought it was gonna be like the final book in like the Hunger Games or like Harry Potter, where literally everyone was just like nuke, 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 like, you know. Ugh. But now I know. I feel like the dying is gonna start whenever they're all together. Like whenever they go back to Terrasen and they're in like that final stretch, and then people are just gonna start dying left and right. I'm not saying that it, you know, that it's not gonna happen. I know it is, but I'm not gonna be expecting it, and it's gonna suck. But at least Lorcan and Alid made up today. They almost died, but they made up. This is the only book I compared to DH. What is DH? Bye, Lexi. Thanks for coming today. What part are you on? We just finished the Battle of Anielle. The dam broke, and Lorcan and Alid made up. So this is why you blew me off. No, sir! Do not bring that in here. This is not why I blew you off. I had already scheduled this, yes, but I was busy with family this morning. You can almost say that thanks to Erwin they made up. Thanks, Erwin. Oh, Lord. I feel like I'm in shock right now. Record yourself reading 64, but 62 through 67 alone. Okay. Oh, Deathly Hallows. Oh, this is the only book you compare to that? Damn. Deathly Hallows was really rough. And like the final book in the Hunger Games was also really rough. Like, it was very dark. And I think I was expecting more of that. And not to say that this book hasn't been dark, because it absolutely has been, with everything that Aelin has been through. But I thought everyone was gonna get a taste of like what Aelin was going through. Like everyone was gonna get like captured or tortured or, you know, something like that. Aelin's been taking the brunt of everything. My poor baby. And then she still has to go through more. I'm worried about how this is supposed to go. How this is supposed to go in terms of like us fighting, not us, but like Aelin fighting Erwin and Maeve. Fuck, my phone keeps falling at the same time. Like, who are we gonna handle first? And how? What, TV death has made you cry? Not the only one, but the one that has forever changed me, absolutely. I've never been the same since I watched it. Daenerys Targaryen. I'm so sorry if you haven't watched Game of Thrones, if I just spoiled that for you. But yes, Daenerys, Stormborn Targaryen. That is my least favorite, worst, most traumatic TV death probably ever. Yeah, did not have fun. Ryan, you know how I feel about this. Shut the hell up. Shut up. She's not a villain. she's a victim to bad writing. Horrible writers. Okay, when did that come out? Like 2019? I was fighting for my life, like against like people that were calling Daenerys the Mad Queen. I was fighting for my life defending her. And I still am defending her to this day, because people on Twitter love to talk about Daenerys, know absolutely nothing. And yeah, she never was the villain, was never going to be the villain, was never meant to be the villain. D&D just suck. So yeah, I don't think that she would have ever in her entire life burned King's Landing like that. She never played with the lives of innocents, and that's something that you literally cannot argue. Like, she never played with the lives of innocents. But will I defend the choice that they made her make? Absolutely. And I'll defend her, that she had every right to. I'm not mad at her for it. She did that, and I'm backing her up. Oh, see, I disagree. I think she was broken, but not mad. That's what I'm saying. I'm defending her, like, burning King's Landing. But do I think she would have ever done that? No. I don't think she would have ever. Shut up, Ryan. Anyway, I'm glad that my favorite couple literally ever made it out of this alive. That's all I wanted. Now, SJM better not touch them anymore. She gave them their near-death experience. John would never have done it either. I am reading the books right now because in a lot of the arguments that I get into people, they bring up the fact that I have never read the books, which is true, but also not, because I'm arguing on the basis of the show, not the books. But I have started reading the books for the people that, you know, want to tell me that I haven't read the books. Now I can tell them that I have, and I still support Daenerys. And I do like Jon's character more in the books. Her bestie said Dracarys, so she listened. She absolutely did. Like I said, I will defend her choice to burn King's Landing, like, until the day I die. Because, you know, she's my queen at the end of the day. I'm a defender regardless. Do I think she would have done that had D&D not been stupid? No. I don't think she would have. I'm glad you're happy for now. I am just glad that I didn't cry today. Like, the way I thought I was gonna cry. Even the cast was not happy with the last season. Yeah, that's why Kit Harington is trying to make a spin-off to fix it. But I don't see how it will work. Like, I don't at all. They have ruined so many things about the show I feel like it's not fixable. And let's be honest, like, the only thing that people really want to see from this other show, they don't give a shit about Jon's life over the wall, beyond the wall. They care about Daenerys. They want to see Daenerys come back, and they want to see what happens to Drogon. I have seen so many people saying that they want Jon to find Drogon and ride Drogon. Like, Drogon would not literally burn Jon to the crisp if he ever saw him again. But yeah, Aelin reminds me a lot of Daenerys. Aelin and Manon remind me a lot of, like, Daenerys and her story. And so that's why I like them so much. Bye, Ryan. See you on Monday. But yeah. Okay, well, we finished for today. Tomorrow, what's tomorrow? What am I doing tomorrow? I don't think I'm doing anything tomorrow, so I think I can go live again tomorrow for the new year. Yeah, I think that's it. Yes, I finished. I'm sorry. But yeah, I hope you guys have a fun, safe night tonight. Be responsible, be super careful and super safe and super cautious of other stupid people out in the world right now. that are not being cautious or safe or considerate of others. I hope you guys have lots of fun celebrating the new year. Happy New Year. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for everything y'all have done this year for me and coming to these lives. Definitely makes it really fun for me. But yeah, Happy New Year. I'll see y'all hopefully tomorrow. Bye.